Here we go.
Will you repeat the question, please, for
Yeah,
the
how
recording?
does Tacitus describe the German people in this document? Like the whole document's just him talking about the Germans. How does he describe them, or like what kinds of things does he point out that he sees that he's like, oh, this is interesting, or this is what they do?
He talks a lot about their fighting ability, them as warriors, how the kings are raised from birth to be the best warriors, and how like they put a lot of effort into making their weapons, and how cowards are like hung, if they don't serve well, and if they, aren't willing to serve their tribe, they hang them.
Yeah, so this military, the militaristic components are very important to Tacitus. Like he hones in on these repeatedly throughout the document. He's like, look, these are fearsome warriors. They, on page 186, he talks about, like the very beginning, he talks about their weapons. They're like, even though they don't have much iron, they develop pretty sophisticated weapons. Page 187, he talks about the mandate of the god whom they believe to inspire the warrior, that they're so afraid of losing battles and their women being captured. Like to them, the greatest dishonor would be having their women captured in battle and being forced to do things they don't want to do for other people. Like so much so that women will remind warriors, or like in the heat of battle, women will kind of come up and be and expose themselves and be like, look, like this is what you're fighting for here, guys. Get back in the fight. Like you mentioned, Ben, he talks about like the kings. It's a great insult if like a tribal chief or a king who like doesn't fight. Like what kind of king is this if he can't fight with his own men? So there's this intense focus on the military, the martial aspect of the German people. That says a lot about Tacitus and what he finds valuable in looking at other people. Like how dangerous are they? How sophisticated in their military ways are they? That tells us a lot, I think, about how Romans, prioritize certain things. So what else? What else does he say about the German people? How does he describe the Germans? What kinds of interesting things does he point out?
He talks about their chiefs a lot.
Talks about their chiefs a lot. Yeah, especially page 189, I think it is. He talks about how they, deal with like punishment, how they mete out punishment by hanging. Traitors and deserters are hanged on trees. Anyone who's a coward, is purged from the tribe. Yeah. That talks about the kings and the chiefs and their way to persuade and to lead. Yeah. Any other things you want to point out here? Anything you want to hone in on? This is kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but how does he describe the women and children of Germany? Like, what are they doing while the men are at war and, running the village? What's the role of women and children? Okay, so so while women are kind of regarded still as like property, this is pretty universal in the ancient period. Women play a fairly important role in the community. There are very strict rules when it comes to marriage, and one of the things that Tacitus finds really interesting is the women have there's kind of an exchange of gifts that happens when two people join in marriage. The man has to be able to provide for his new family, and so here's all these things I'm bringing to the table, and the woman presents her man with arms, with like a sword or a spear or bow or something like that. So here's how you defend us as the family. So, and you find that it's kind of interesting because like in this very martial, military kind of focus civilization, the women are taking part in arming the soldiers of the tribe. And that's pretty interesting too. Women are always present in the village community. They're not shoved off to the side like they are in Rome. Women are very much a part of daily life. And the kids run around, and they run around naked most of the time, and this like hardens their bodies because it's really cold up in Germany. And they fight. Their form of play is to fight one another. So, and sometimes it's really dangerous. Like he mentions this towards the end of the document. He's like, sometimes they get hurt, but you know what? It's a spectacle. It's a spectacle, and everyone is kind of, all the men and children in the community are kind of expected to gain scars and battle wounds, even if it's just in play, even if it's just in training. You're expected to show your scars to your moms and your wives to show them how brave you are. And the women, if you don't have enough scars, the women will call you out on that. Be like, look, you haven't earned your stripes, literally. You haven't. We're going to shame you if you come home and you don't have enough blood missing. Go lose some more blood, guys. So the women are very much a part of communal life, and the kids are kind of raised in this way to be hardened and to eventually, protect their community someday. I think this tells us a lot about how the Romans approach other people in the world. They focus in a lot on like how much of a threat they are, how brave, how kind of military minded they are. But Tacitus kind of also, he finds it kind of curious that, women play this important role. The kids are given a lot of freedom. There's not the same like men dominating their households with an iron fist. It's more of like loose community village life. Like it's more communal than in Rome. And Tacitus finds that really interesting. He's like, that's not how we do it in Rome. For those of you who have read parts of this, do you think he respects the German people, or does he kind of look down on them and see them as inferior to Rome? Or both? Can you respect someone and look down your nose at them at the same time?
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of both. I think he respects parts of their culture, like their militaristic, their militaristic tendencies and nature. But I think when it comes to their village life, he sees, he thinks that it's not as efficient and effective as the ones that they have in Rome, as the life they have in Rome.
Yeah, good. Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Does he respect the Germans?
It kind of seems more like he's in wonder, like he doesn't know what to think about them.
Good.
He's
Yeah,
like,
I agree with that.
Screaming us in war, so they're pretty strong. But on the other hand, their kids are running around naked, so I don't know how to feel about this whole scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Anyone else have any thoughts on this? Like, how does Tacitus see the Germans? I mean, yeah, I think you guys are right. So it's a mixed bag here. This reveals, I keep coming back to this because it's one of the questions for the essay, but like this reveals a lot about how the Germans kind of, or how the Romans form their worldview, and the types of things they focus on when they look at other people groups. Yeah, he's got this kind of like grudging respect for a people that Rome is just starting to conquer, and he won't know this, but Rome will never conquer all of Germania. Most of it remains out of the boundaries of the Roman Empire. And so, you have to have a respect for an enemy that trains this hard and is this committed to self-defense. But at the same time, they're living in like dirt huts. They're running around collecting manure for some reason. Like he talks about just kind of how smelly everything is in these villages. There's no city. He points out there's no cities. How civilized can you be if you don't have any cities? And the kids are running around naked. So like, what kind of civilization actually is this? Well, at least they can fight well, So there are certain things, like to speak directly to the questions asked in the essay assignment, there are things that Tacitus finds worthy of respect. But there's definitely things that he's like not fond of when it comes to Germanic tribal life. Anything else we want to say on Tacitus before we move on? Okay. And by the way, Tacitus, I was going to talk a little bit about like, how does he get this information? Because he himself is not someone who like goes to war and fights. He's a historian. Like he kind of sits around and he writes about things in the comfort of Rome. So how would he know what's going on in Germany? Well, hopefully he's interviewed people. He's probably interviewed people who have been there, who have served in the legions. But a lot of the stuff he just kind of is like second or third hand information. A lot of it's just stuff that he makes up or he thinks, makes sense. Information is kind of unreliable in the ancient period. But as it turns out, a lot of things that Tacitus says are verified by other sources. So he's not completely wrong about most of the stuff. All right, anyway, so moving on, Seneca. So this is a more philosophical kind of document. Seneca has this this document where he kind of ruminates on how short life is and the meaning of life. He's asking these questions that people have been asking since the dawn of humanity. Why are we here? What do we do with our lives? What happens to us when we die? And we see the beginnings of this kind of what's called Stoicism, which is the Roman approach to life and death. So, according to Seneca here, this kind of philosopher on all things, having to do with life and the nature of life. According to Seneca, what's the problem faced by humans, like all humans? Like what's the ultimate problem that we encounter? It's kind of given away in the title and the first paragraph and all that.
The shortness of life and how to spend that time.
Yeah. Specifically, all people are mortal, obviously. So what constitutes the best life? Like, how can I live my best life today? To put it in modern parlance. He says in the middle of the first paragraph, it's not that we have a short space of time, but that we waste much of it. Life is long enough and it's been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of very greatest things. Like, at least we're not, cats or dogs that live into our teens and then we die. It's like, well, human beings are capable of living into our 50s and 60s and perhaps even 70s at this point, if you're really lucky. but there's, so in the long run, that's a short time frame, but we waste a lot of our time, and that's just, we waste it by doing various things. What is, in particular, what's his attitude towards someone who lives a very lazy and luxurious lifestyle? What does he think of those people?
They're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah, trying hard enough to do what specifically? What are they not trying at?
Trying to like better society and everything, because they're just kind of sitting there like, I mean, like, I have wealth and I have this and that, so I'm good. Other people can work for that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not. There's no honor in that. There's nothing to see there and be envious of. Like, yeah, sure, you're sitting around on your sofa eating grapes all day. I'm sure that's nice, but that's a life that's completely wasted, according to Seneca, according to the Stoics, who are obsessed with trying to burrow down into the meaning of life and find, like, what is the best way of living? Like, how can we do ourselves justice? The gods gave us this mortal being, they gave us our existence and our consciousness. What do we do with it that's worth doing? So yeah, he has this very dismissive attitude, this disgusted attitude towards people who live in luxury, which is kind of interesting, right? Like, the American dream is comfort. The goal of modern capitalism is to accumulate wealth and live off of that wealth. And the goal is to live your best life in as much comfort as possible. And so this is a really weird, this may seem like a really weird document to us living in modern day 2020 hyper capitalistic America, where Seneca's like, the more luxury you accumulate, the worse life you're going to live. What do you guys think of that? Is this, I mean, this isn't in the questions I typed up, but like, is this a stupid, naive kind of worldview that he's trying to put forward here?
I don't think it's stupid or but I think it's just, it shows what he values more. Like, he values, as I argue, as a Roman, he values certain things over others. He values trying to better your society. Like, that is a large reason why you are in this world. And if you live a life of luxury, you're not working to better your family and your nation. And so I think he values those things. And so because that life can't allow you to do that, he thinks that it's wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone want to add to that?
He seems to prefer stability in knowledge versus stability in wealth.
Good. Yeah. The seeking of knowledge instead of the seeking of comfort is the true goal here that he's trying to get at, And this does, like Ben kind of intimated, like, it gives us another good insight into how the Romans think about things, or at least some of, I mean, these are just two documents and they're just two guys. And there's obviously a whole spectrum of historical sources we could draw on. But in terms of generalizing, the Roman worldview, it would not surprise us to find that most Romans value honor, either through combat or through trying to live your best mortal short existence with as much either glory or just doing something to better Rome, contributing to the community, not just sitting there eating grapes all day, because that's not honorable. Like, that's a wasted life. That's embracing the brevity of life, is sitting around wasting the minutes. You know, they would look at us and like as we doom scroll through Twitter and Instagram, they look at us and be like, "You idiots! You know, what are you doing with your life?" And sometimes I think we probably feel that way sometimes too, as we catch ourselves doom scrolling. You know, we're like, "Oh, I've been on Instagram for an hour and a half. I haven't done anything. I have a paper to write. It's 2 a.m. I should probably get some sleep." You know, like these are kind of timeless ideas that Seneca is putting forward. It's like, what the hell are you doing with yourself from minute to minute? And you know, I'd be like, "Hey, stop, man! You're causing me stress. You're giving me anxiety by asking me that." And he'd be like, "Well, good. Get off your butt." So what's the best way? I mean, what specific things does he tell us to do with our life, with the brevity of life? What kinds of examples does he give here, or tips, or what is Seneca urging us to do with life?
Carpe diem.
Okay, that's actually a really good summary of it. Yeah, just seize the day, whatever that looks like. And he gives the idea, or he gives the example of, is it Augustus? He gives this example of like, hey, you know, the Roman emperor, like, look what he did. Look what he was able to do with his life. Like, sure, he lived in comfort, but he worked really hard to build a Roman state. And he ended up being deified. You know, he ends up becoming a god. Like he sees the day. Look, not everyone can become emperor of Rome, but look to the emperor of Rome as an example of how to live a robust, industrious life, where he built honor for himself. Yeah. So what does anyone have anything else they want to add to that? Anything else he says on this topic?
Well, I wasn't the one who came up with this. Someone else sort of referenced it earlier, but he thinks that to learn a lot, to learn as much as you can, and that is another way that you can help not waste your life.
Mm-hmm.
And he also talks a lot about public duties, about civic duties. Again, going back to the old thing I've referenced. He
Yeah.
seems to think that you have some form of obligation to your society, and it's best to live at least a portion of your life dedicating yourself to your society as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And to qualify that a little bit, he does caution against, like in the final paragraph of the document, against kind of dividing your time between too many things. Like learning is great, in civic duty and all that, but delve deeply into, specialties. There's nothing the busy man is less busied with than living. There's nothing harder. There's nothing that is harder to learn. He writes above that, that no one pursuit can be successfully followed by a man who is busied with many things. And so he kind of gives this, Confucius say to not become a Renaissance man, but to become, very knowledgeable in specific things, so that you know what you're talking about. Like it's, don't try and like in your carpe diem, try and suck the marrow out of life, as a later poet says. Don't try and be on the surface like everything to every man. Don't try and be a jack of all trades. That's a waste of time. But yeah, in serving oneself, like Augustus, in serving one's own aims, you end up serving Rome. You end up serving your community. Being good at something is a worthwhile pursuit, and if you do that, you're contributing to the common good. So, So he ends it with this quote: "It takes the whole of life to learn how to live, and it takes the whole of life to learn how to die." What does this actually mean? Or does it mean anything at all?
I think he's trying to tie the two together by saying that how you die is a result of how you lived.
Oh, okay. How you die, how you close out your life is a reflection on how you lived. Oh, cool. I kind of like that. Sorry if you're hearing lots of like stomping around happening through the microphone. My kids are rampaging throughout the house. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this final quote, or any other thoughts on Seneca in general?
You lived a certain life.
Sorry, what?
They muted.
Someone tried to talk and you were muted.
I think it was Ben.
Any other thoughts on Seneca or the Stoic way of carping this DM? If not, that's fine. I think we've got it. We've pretty much nailed it. You know, Seneca is, again, and I want to cast these things in terms of the question I'm asking you for the analysis paper. You know, there are certain things that Romans find worthy of respect, and there are certain things they hone in as virtuous. And trying to live your best life through this kind of Stoic way of embracing one's mortality, trying really hard to make use of all of your time, not wasting a life. You know, these ideas are kind of followed up on throughout Western history. You know, there's a strong kind of humanistic, Christian humanist element that's thrown into this in the Renaissance period, and we'll get to that, you know, in several weeks. But like this idea that like God wants you to live your best life. You know, God doesn't want you to just sit around. God wants you to explore the creation, his glorious creation. So therefore, go out and learn things about science and math and history and poetry and art and all these things. Like, go out and explore those things, because that would be a worthy life. You know, that kind of humanistic idea is very much rooted in this Roman Stoic, like, whatever you choose to do, man, just do something. Like, get off your butt and do something to bring glory and honor to not only yourself and the memory of that people have after you die, but, you know, to Rome as well. Like, if you're going to live well. And if you're going to die well. And you see this kind of reflected too in the German document as well. You know, the Germans are in some ways embracing this idea. You know, they are ready to fight for their way of life. They spend their days training for battle. You know, their women are very much involved in the prosperity of their tribe. And, you know, this is virtuous. This is a very Stoic way of living. All right. Well, anything else you guys want to say before we go? Hopefully this was helpful.
We haven't talked about the first question at all.
We talked about laws, Roman laws, or any.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that question is rooted in the documents from last week, the 12 tables, and Cicero's kind of ruminating about justice. Like, where does justice come from? So we discussed that last week. It is included in the essay. So yeah, I should have a recording up of our discussion from last week. If you missed, I can't remember who was here for that, but there's a recording on Blackboard about that. If you want to delve into that, you can. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you have any specific questions about anything thing relating to the assignment right now, now is a good time to ask. But you know, I mean, to get at like in a broad way, the first question asks about, you know, how should a society best govern itself? And justice is absolutely, the idea of justice is absolutely crucial to the Roman sense of law. And you can see this in the 12 tablets, in the specific laws that they lay out. But Cicero talks a lot about like justice is a natural phenomenon, that it's like an unspoken law of nature. It's like the theory of gravity. People want justice, they crave it, and therefore we need to build a government around that idea. And that's the best way of building a lawful society, is embracing this idea that justice is given to us by the gods, and it's found in nature. And people, at least Romans, enlightened Romans, they gravitate towards justice naturally. And our laws should reflect that. I mean, I hope I'm not giving away the candy store here by by saying that. But that's essentially what. So what I'd like you to do is just, you know, like in any of the other analysis papers, like just find some evidence from the documents to prove, you know, that argument. Give us a few quotes from some of these documents to build an essay that's answering these questions. You know, that's all I care about. Okay. Well, I guess we're done. Yeah, I'll stick around if you have any specific questions, but otherwise, I appreciate you all. Have a great one, and have a good weekend.